Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick warning before we begin. In this story there is mention of parental and spousal abuse, so if those are topics that make you uncomfortable, you might want to skip the story. Now, let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Throw the H Away. I, 28 female, have to move for work and I don't know if I want to take my husband, 31 male, with me. My husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 2, and things have been pretty good, but we've had our fair share of downs. We had or have regular sex at least 4 times a week and sometimes more. I'm pretty much available whenever he's ready and willing to do what he wants, but I have a problem initiating sex. I didn't grow up in a healthy environment and I get incredibly embarrassed asking for sex and clam up. I've been trying to work on it and find someone I can talk to about the situation. Usually, my husband is patient about it and I've explained that it's not that he's unattractive or bad at sex, I just am embarrassed. 2.5 weeks ago, we were about to have sex and he told me that we weren't going to have sex until I started it and told him exactly what I wanted. I really tried to do it, but I couldn't and ended up in tears and he got extremely pissed at me. More pissed than I've ever seen him, and he stormed off into his office and that's where he stayed for a week. He wouldn't talk to me at all, he wouldn't look at me, wouldn't eat dinner with me, wouldn't even acknowledge my presence for that whole week, and was unresponsive when I tried talking to him through his office door, which was locked. I begged for his forgiveness multiple times and he never once made a sound or opened that door. Then I got the news that my best friend had passed and I was a complete emotional wreck. I begged him to talk to me and for his forgiveness while bawling my eyes out, but there was still nothing. I finally just slid a note under the door telling him what happened, and a few hours later he finally came out of his office and apologized and comforted me and has been back to himself and even gone above and beyond. And here's the problem, I got a promotion after in a different state that we both knew was coming, but I just can't stop thinking about how he didn't even react to me having a mental and emotional breakdown and would have kept ignoring me had I not written the note telling him what happened because of sex. I love him, but I don't think I can ever forget that. I just keep thinking about what happens the next time when I can't do what he wants and no one dies, and how long could he ignore me? I understand that he's rightfully frustrated with me and that I screwed up, but I don't think that was acceptable. It puts a knot in my stomach, but I'm not really sure I want him to come with me after this incident with a job that will add even more stress. I'm really confused and still hurt and would like some suggestions and also a little clarity. I don't know if I'm just being sensitive and overreacting or if I really need to start considering this at the beginning of the end. Well, OP, if I'm being honest with you, I'm a little lost, or I think there's a little bit of information missing because I don't understand what you can be asking forgiveness for. You mentioned at least 2 or 3 times that you were begging for his forgiveness and he just wouldn't talk to you. I don't understand. The only thing you didn't do was actually initiate sex, or initiate sex under his terms with you telling him what you wanted. So unless we're missing something, I really don't understand why you should be begging for forgiveness for. OP, I have to say that I find that the way that your husband reacted with everything, like the silent treatment, not acknowledging your presence, all of that, is either abuse or borderline abuse, I would say. At the very minimum, it is an incredibly not healthy response to what happened to you guys. Look, I understand that feeling desire is an incredibly huge aphrodisiac, and having your partner start up sex or initiate sex is a great way to feel desired. Of course, if your partner never initiates sex, you do feel unattractive, but if your partner has told you that it's because they have personal hang-ups and it's not because of you, then you can't act this way, man. That's not right. OP, I think you seriously need to sit down with your husband and understand what's going on, or you'll need to acknowledge that you guys have bigger issues, and it may be that you need counseling or just not be together. And what do you guys think about this situation, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. One for the Gold says, being upset that you don't feel comfortable in initiating sex is fine. Even walking away to cool down after a big fight is fine. Shutting your significant other out for a week is not fine. It's stonewalling, particularly cruel stonewalling, and is one of those behaviors that can severely damage a relationship. In your husband's case, it also smacks of punishing and controlling behavior. I'm doubtful that this is the first time. Maybe it's the first time it was this bad, but I suspect there is a pattern there if you look objectively. If there's a pattern, please use extra caution. If you want to stay together, get therapy as soon as possible. You need to work past your issues initiating for you, and he needs to figure out a constructive way to talk about issues that upset him. Personally, I would be horribly hurt and worried about how someone who is supposed to love me could listen for a week to me crying and begging and not respond at all. I'm not sure I could trust that person enough to be vulnerable with them again. Kai Moana says, I absolutely have the same hang-ups when it comes to initiating sex, so I understand exactly how difficult and frustrating and upsetting it is to want to initiate to make your partner happy and just finding it impossible. It is really concerning that he is punishing you. Yes, punishing you for something that you are trying to work through, that you have apologized for, and the fact that he took hours after learning of the circumstances to come out and apologize. He's controlling you. He's teaching you what happens when you mess up. He's leaving you begging and crying for his forgiveness over behavior that was not born from malice or ill intent. Lina Duddy says, I don't think you did anything wrong. You tried and he should be more accepting and understanding that you are trying given your personal circumstances. Your husband acted like a spoiled child making a massive tantrum. Marriage is give and take, support and communication. He did none of this. Look at this as a gift. You may not want to take him, and yet you are given an opportunity to have a clean break. This happened once. Do you want to feel belittled and the size of an ant again? Consider this a gift of the chance to a new life. Good luck. Additional information from OP's comments. We've been together 6 years. I told him up front before we had sex for the first time that I had issues regarding sex that I was trying to work through. He said he understood and we moved on, and I worked on it, and I've actually made a lot of progress. But the initiating thing is something that's been harder to get over. I've told him repeatedly that it's not that he's unattractive or that I'm disinterested, and each time he said that he understood. And no, when he told me he wanted me to initiate, he wasn't talking about me initiating the next time we had sex. He was talking about right then. We started foreplay, we were kissing, and most of our clothes were already off. He stopped and told me to tell him what I wanted right then, and I couldn't. He said if I couldn't tell him, then we just wouldn't have sex, and he kept repeating it, and I still couldn't do it, and that's when I got upset and he stormed off. He asked if it was something wrong with him twice in our whole relationship, so I reassured him both of those times that it definitely isn't him and that I loved him and was attracted to him. I told him every once in a while that it's not him because I don't want him to think it's him, and he's never mentioned being hurt by my lack of initiating. I also haven't just been sitting on my ass our entire relationship waiting for it to get better. I had to work through tons of other issues with sex, not just this one, and I've overcome them. This is just one of the lingering ones. I went to therapy until I couldn't afford to do so anymore, and my husband knows this. I have been trying throughout our relationship to get over it, and I've tried initiating multiple times, with it failing more often than not. I accept full responsibility for the way I am and have been making, obviously not good enough, efforts. Other than that, we have a very healthy sex life, I think. I mean, we have sex frequently, and I'm almost always receptive when he initiates, and I've only said no to sex with him when he asked when I was sick or genuinely too tired, which doesn't happen often, and I've explained why every time. We don't have a dead bedroom. And for those wondering, yes, it is sexual abuse in my past that he knows about. He's mostly been supportive during our relationship, although it seems like with some things he just understandably does not understand. But more often than not, he's listened, so it's not really that. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP's husband's reaction is a little bit over the top and could be controlling as well. Also, from OP's context, I get the idea that they do communicate, or at least OP communicates, and this is some kind of isolated incident? Not so sure about that. Anyways, it's time to move on to the update to see how the story ends, but of course before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now, let's move on to the update. I want to start off by saying thanks to all of you who offered your perspective and opinions. There are some things I want to address in the actual post and not just the comments. I did get therapy for my intimacy issues and have worked through several, but had to stop because I couldn't afford the sessions anymore. My husband has only brought up questions about my initiation problem twice in our 6 years, and each time I explained my feelings to him and reassured him that it wasn't anything to do with him, and he told me each time that he understood. He also told me he understood my feelings whenever I brought up the issue. He knew before we started having sex that I had issues with sex, and again, he told me that he understood and that everything was fine. We don't have a dead bedroom. We have sex at least 4 times a week and sometimes more. I'm interested and enthusiastic whenever it comes to sex with my husband, and I'm ready and willing almost whenever he asks. The only exception being when I'm way too tired or sick. The only issue is that I can't initiate it. Now I can give you guys the update. First, luckily, the position that I'm supposed to take has been pushed back 3 months instead of next month. So it's taken a bit of pressure off of the situation. Also, my husband and I finally sat down to talk about the issue. I apologized again and explained to him that his reaction to me not responding to his demands right then made the situation a lot worse, and he definitely could have gone about the situation much better. I also explained that his reaction and completely ignoring me quite frankly scared me and made me doubt our marriage and my trust in him. In turn, he also apologized again for shutting me out and ignoring me for an entire week, and told me his actual feelings of frustration and resentment that he has chosen to keep to himself about the situation for the past 6 years. When asked why he didn't bring up his feelings himself for the multiple times I brought up the subject, he said that he didn't want to make me feel bad about my issues, so he chose to lie about them instead of being honest, like I begged him to more than once. He does often do things like this, and it's always phrased as, "I knew it would stress you out," or "I'm just trying to protect you." And as far as blaming myself, I do. I don't know why, but I feel like I should have seen something or done more to fix my problem. But when I think about what exactly I could have done, I come up short. That's why throughout our relationship, I've always tried keeping the lines of communication open about this issue in particular, because I know that being in a relationship with someone who has pre-existing mental and emotional issues is not easy or ideal. And that of course brings up another issue in our marriage. Anyway, upon that revelation, we decided to try marriage counseling in the next couple of months before I move. It's not ideal, as we only have a little over 2 months to tackle a huge problem, but it's at least something to try instead of letting things fester. By the new year, if we see absolutely no improvement, we most likely will go our separate ways and proceed with divorce, since interstate marriage counseling is not an option, and there's no reason for him to give up his job and put his education — he's about to start working on his doctorate — on hold and moved to a different state with me if we're not even sure we'll stay together. Looking back, there have been several situations where we compromised, which was mainly me learning to let things go and him finding a way to always get what he wanted in the end. He's never pushed it to this extent though. He'd passive-aggressively bring it up repeatedly until I was exhausted from arguing about it, so I would just let it go. I always looked at it as choosing your battles, but maybe that wasn't it now that I think about it. Again, thanks for all of your comments and advice and perspectives. They were and are appreciated. Well, OP, I'm gonna call this a happy update because even though as a cynic, I think you will be moving by yourself in about 2 to 3 months, I believe you are being incredibly fair with your relationship. And I think it will give you peace of mind in any situation, whether you guys stay together or not. So OP, here's wishing you all the best in the future. Take care and thank you so much for sharing. Now let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Carl the Well Endowed. Good for you, Carl. No, that is not a company spot, that is my spot. When I started at my new company, we used all assigned parking spots in the adjacent parking garage, and I was given a spot in a building a couple of blocks away. When I got in early one morning and had to be let in by security as the building was not yet unlocked, I talked with the security guard briefly, and this started a bit of a friendship. After a week or so, he asked why I always came through the front door instead of through the parking garage, and I explained my situation. He ended up giving me one of the extra spots that was assigned to the security staff. I was only allowed to park there Monday through Thursday as they needed the spot for cleaning crews on Friday. This spot was about 20 feet from the pedestrian bridge to the building, so it is a pretty nice setup. We also have 2 company visitor spots in the same adjacent lot. However, they are on the top floor, along with the rest of the spots assigned to our company, exposed to the sun and require walking down 3 flights to get to the pedestrian bridge. We have had a senior engineer visiting from a different office for the last 2 weeks parking in the visitor's spot. On Tuesday, we went to our cars together and he saw where I was parked. Well, when I got to work yesterday, he was already in my parking spot. I headed up to one of the visitor spots and let him know that he needed to move his vehicle out of my spot or his car might be towed. We are right downtown and have many people who park in this garage without permission. He told me it was fine, don't worry about it, it was a company parking spot and that I should just stay in the visitor's spot. I told him that I really did not think that was a good idea and tried to explain, but he brushed me off. I followed up with an email letting him know that the spot was not leased by our company, but that I just had permission to park there until a spot opened in the garage. So I parked in my assigned spot in the other parking garage. Boss man does not like non-visitors parking in the visitor spot, so I was not about to stay there and didn't worry about it, just like I was told. Well, come lunchtime, senior engineer comes storming back into the office. Apparently, security guard saw that the vehicle parked in my spot was not my crappy Civic, but rather a Tesla, and decided to have the vehicle towed. Not exactly sure what came of this, and I bet I will find out later today, but I am happy that I sent the email as senior engineer outranks me by a considerable margin, and I do not need someone thinking that I left him high and dry out of spite. I should note that while we have spots assigned to our company, each vehicle gets assigned its own spot. Occasionally, we will have people park in our assigned spots and security will call our office to confirm if this is someone we are allowing to park there or if this is someone parking improperly. So if it had been a company spot, senior engineer's assumption would have been correct. We got no such call and security guard does not have my personal number. OP's update. Apparently, senior engineer called and complained to building management. He explained the situation and it turns out that security did not have the authority to allow me to park in this spot. Sounds like security guy got chewed out and I'm really hoping this did not impact his job. I lost my parking in the closed garage. Boss man is not upset with me, which is the only good thing about this. Senior engineer was bitching to anyone who would listen. He is such a victim. No idea who had to pay tow fees, but I am pretty confident that senior engineer did not. Update number 2. I was able to speak with security guard on my way to lunch today. Apparently, his boss did not chew him out, and I guess that was passed on to senior douchebag to appease him. Yes, security guard was told that he could not give out the spot, but that was it. He was quite surprised when I told him what I heard. Well, OP, he wanted your spot. It was a company spot according to him, and his card got towed. That's what you get for just taking a parking spot without asking or talking about it. I do think it's a good thing that nothing bad happened to the security guard because he was just being a bro and helping you out. Anyways, thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.